This is Malaya. Let me be
A great pleasure to speak with Chisang from Singapore, and she's a coach. She's helping parents, so she's a parenting coach. Our new member. It's a great pleasure to have you in our group. Thank you for joining us. So please share a little bit more about how you became the coach and how you're helping parents with their
Wow,
children.
cool. Thank you so much for this time to be able to share a little bit of myself. I appreciate the time that you're giving to the community. How did I've actually started my career as a counselor, working with parents and working with marriages and all. Then so by the time my kids came along, so I have got 3 kids. My eldest is now 17. Then she was adopted. So after we adopted, then I was conceived. So this is a case when they talked about, back then they joked like buy one get one free because that's actually 1 year apart. Then subsequently I have another birth child. So my 2 birth kids are miracle babies because our chance of conception was actually, almost close to 0. So when my kids came along, I was 7-8 years into our marriage, and also I have been a parenting coach and counselor. So I thought, I got this parenting thing down. I know what to do. I've got all the techniques, all the skill sets. I teach parents how to manage their kids. How hard can it be, right? So when my kids came along, and very quickly I found that parenting, it is not about just managing behaviors. Parenting is not just about doing the right skills, doing the right techniques. My kids taught me very quickly that they are not going to come along with me if I just demand them to do a certain thing. Especially my eldest, she was quite temperamental in a period of time. So I used all the strategies and tools I knew how in my toolbox. The hard way, the soft way. I scolded, yelled, threatened. She would fight back even harder. Like literally, it was like I screamed in her face and she screamed in my face. I would do the withdrawal, the timeout, and everything else. Again, it will work for a short time. Then the whole behavior will come back. So I was literally at my wit's end. So I talked to friends. I talked to professionals. I read up on books. Nothing seemed to click. So I was like really desperate. I was like, what did I do wrong? Am I doing something wrong? And that wasn't the worst. The worst was I started to think that is there something wrong with my child? And I thought, no, I can't. I knew better not to go down that track. Right. So I just, like, as I was talking, I can still remember very clearly that moment. I think it was an evening. I was just sitting there. I was like, like what I'm going to do next. Then something just kind of like clicked at that moment. And it was like, with all these things that I have been reading and doing, I have been focusing so much on changing her behavior. I wanted to change her. I wanted to fix her. I wanted to make sure that she does things right. And I totally missed the part that she actually has a lot of emotional needs that I wasn't listening to her. Right. So that's been a huge shift in terms of how I approach parenting. It is really about connecting with the kids first, about the emotional needs, about what's behind, what's underneath. So from there on, my parenting approach is really now about the iceberg. Right. So the behavior is the top 10, 15%. And as parents, we always look for strategies to fix those. But we do not go deeper or take a step back and understand what drives those behavior. Right. So my work right now is really helping parents to understand that it is not the behavior. It is what's driving the behavior that as parents, we want to be able to connect them with. And surprisingly and amazingly, once we're able to do that with the kids, the shift just happens so quickly. But the shift actually starts with us as parents. Yeah. So that's where I really started to have a really big change in the way I approach parenting and how I help parents. Because I find that sometimes, because of our ignorance, because of what we think is the right thing to do, the impact on our children are long lasting. Right. And I don't want to see these kids in my counseling office 15, 20 years down the road. And I think parents have a huge role to play to be able to support our children in their journey of growth. So my desire is really to see the next generation to grow up to be emotionally and relationally healthy. So the emotion and the relation part. And I think we have seen so many research when people at the end of their life, they look back. It is always the relationship, the connections that make life meaningful. Yeah. So it's for the kids, but the parents. Yes.
So, and I think that it was never more complex, like to be a parent, because there's so many things going on in the world, and expectations from the community.
Yes.
What children has to be is just outstanding. So the social pressure, and this year we have a health pressure, and all
Yes.
these changes. So how do you think the parents can deal with all of this? Like how young parents, they are not educated, they are not prepared for all of this. So
Yeah.
what is maybe their main frustration and issues they are currently facing, maybe especially this year, and what steps of actions they can take to start to have control as much as they can?
Yes, yeah. I like the word that you use is the word control. I think one of the biggest challenge as parents right now, we are trying to control everything, right? Trying to make things happen, because things are so uncertain. So we as parents, we're reactive. And as we're reactive, we transfer that anxiety to the children, right? And actually, it's even though it's really complex in terms of the bigger environment, but I think when it comes to home, it can be very simple. The kids, all our kids need from us is really our calm. Not that things are easy, but knowing that together we can work this out. That hope, and just knowing that no matter what happens, I am here with you and for you, no matter what. I think this is the most important foundation that parents can give to our children that we cannot outsource. Everything else, literally, we can outsource, right? But there's also enough research out there to says that in the kids' journey growing up, all they need is one adult who believe in them, and they would be okay, right? So I think that's fundamentally the parents' role to be able to support the children. Yeah.
Well, but parents also don't have experience with all these new challenges, so sometimes it's very difficult to stay cool, and because they don't know what's going on with their job, with their businesses, with their life. When is the time to ask for help for professionals like yourself?
Yeah. The first indicator of whether or not I need some help is when you think that I need some help, but I don't think I need help yet. I think most parents, there is a point in time where they consider the possibility. And typically that's where they started to feel physical symptoms, tiredness, stress, headaches, and they started to feel like they're beginning to get really short fused easily. They are a lot more explosive with the kids, with the spouse, with people in general. So there are a lot of symptoms that tells us that we are under stress. And most of the time, we just keep adding more and more in ourselves. So first thing first, self-care. I think this is a big topic nowadays about self-care, is to really just be aware of your own symptoms and act on it. Instead of just keep saying, let's go for another day, let's go for another week, another month, and by the time we know it, it's really so for the counseling space, very often by the time parents come to us, it's almost like stage 3 cancer, where it could have been prevented if they were seek help a little bit earlier when they knew that symptoms were showing up. In my line of work, typically I get called when the kids' symptoms are in stage 3, stage 4. And all these pain are preventable. Like we can literally do something about it, so that or it can be a little bit easier. Yeah. So if any parents watching this, you don't have to do this alone. Like really, parenting is not a journey where we do it alone. It just doesn't work out. Yeah.
So how people actually can work with you? So share a little bit more about if they want to know more about your system, methodology. So you have your website.
So right now, the best way to reach out to me is through my Facebook, Relational Parenting at East Meets West Parenting. So currently, I am seeing client on a one-on-one basis through Zoom. Obviously, we can't meet up, and so ideally, is a 60-day coaching program where I take parents through certain philosophy, paradigm shift, and some skill sets. And so it's more individual. So if you are looking for one-on-one support, then definitely feel free to connect with me. I'm also in the process of also creating an e-course, by which then it's easier to support parents as well. Right. So these are the two main support systems that I have currently available for parents who are looking for resources. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And in terms of the vision of your business, like we definitely need people who will help us to prepare younger generation, our kids, for the world which is coming. So what is the vision of your business, and like maybe do something with this? As you mentioned, prevention is so important, education. So you are now doing e-course.
Yeah. My ultimate goal is really to build a community of parents who are able to really have the freedom to allow their children to really grow and nurture to be the best versions of themselves, and instead of imposing our expectation on them. And in order for them to be able to do that for the kids, I think us as parents, we need to first develop ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves. Then we are able to release that to our kids. So I always see that as, at the end of the day, if we can see our children as a seed has life in it, and it has all it needs inside to be whatever it needs to be. And then us as parents' job is to provide that environment to make sure that it grows up to the best it can. So that is my vision, that we have a community like that, and that the next generation is free but yet very connected. Yeah. And I think, as I mentioned, it is not a one person thing. It is a community. And so that then it's also for parents to feel safe, to be in a community where we offer support for each other. That there is no shame in, no guilt in, yelling and screaming when we lose it. But let's all grow and learn together for the next generation. Yeah.
And I know you are bilingual, so you're both fluent in English and Mandarin. Are you also working with some clients from China, or just for the Chinese people who are living in Singapore?
At this point, it will be English. It will be English. I think with the Asian community, the approach is slightly different, because parenting is a lot more ingrained in a different set of values and culture, right? But having said that, I think having worked with parents overseas and local, I think at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want to be acknowledged, seen, heard. We all want to be connected, right? I think that is the same no matter what culture and what country we come from, which is why.
Yeah, I have to say, whenever I go to Singapore, I feel like even it's a very competitive city, and like there are many people from all over the world, and city. But however, I always see the parents with the young children, and it from first impression, oh wow, this is a very relaxed place when you compare with Tokyo or some other metropolitan area in Asia. What is your thought about? Is Singapore really that place where it's good to be a parent and convenient to be a parent, or it can be some room for improvement as well?
The spectrum is really big. So as a whole, the education system is competitive in nature, right? So because we thrive on unlimited resources, so our human capital, like we are the resource. So rightly so that we do need our kids to do well, but I think just not every kid can do well in the education system, right? And talent is in everywhere, right? So in general, yes, it is a pressure cooker here for a lot of kids. So that's part of my drive, to want to have parents to chill a little bit, because suicide rates are around. Kids who are stressed and who are having symptoms, these things are around. It's real. Right, my girls are in teenage years, so I hear it from their friends, as well. So yeah, but I think Singapore, if you want, even for me to raise my kids in Singapore, it's a choice because I'm a Canadian. I could raise my kids in Canada, but we decided to raise it here. And even in the past 17 years, it has to be a very intentional effort on my part not to get pulled into the system of being competitive, of needing to do well in this, needing to succeed in this, needing to excel in this. But to just really look at what are the kids' interests and what are the kids' potential, and then how can we support that, right?
Totally. I think that's the way how they can actually reach the maximum potential they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If they focus on. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this is so interesting topic, and I think for all parents who are watching this video, a very very useful information. So please be free to reach out, Chisa, if you have any upcoming e-course or something you think is good to share with the community. Please be free to do so, and I also invite members to connect with you on your Facebook. And especially for the young parents, if they have some questions for you, please be free to ask directly Chisai. And yeah, it was a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you for the time. Bye.